This morning, Democrats in Washington fuming a bit over secrecy surrounding U.S. military strikes on alleged drug trafficking boats in the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific. The Pentagon says 61 people now have been killed in more than a dozen strikes. Who is being targeted? What is the legal justification? Those questions have lingered throughout. House Democrats were hoping to get answers to those questions and more in a classified briefing Thursday, after Senate Democrats had actually been shut out of a briefing the day before. So what did they learn? Joining me right now is Democratic Congressman Adam Smith, the top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee. Thank you for being here. Classified briefing with the usual caveat. I understand it's classified. How can you describe what the briefing was?
Sure. Well, what's classified is what exactly our troops are doing down there and how many there are. No, but the overall stuff is not as classified.
Well, they're releasing.
Sure.
They're talking
right.
about it.
And the briefing was disturbing both for what we were told and what we weren't told. First of all, in the information we don't have, we invited in, it was an Armed Services Committee briefing, but we invited in the Intel chair and ranking member, Congressman Crawford and Himes. Intel has never been briefed on any of this. So all of the intel that they are relying on for the strikes they are taking, nobody in Congress has seen anything about that. That's what the Intelligence Committee is supposed to be for.
Clarify, that is unusual.
Oh gosh, it's
just
completely and totally unusual. And even Armed Services, we had not been briefed on what DOD was doing. So what they're not telling us, what they're not informing Congress, and there was bipartisan outrage in that meeting at the fact that we've been kept in the dark on all of this. But even what they did tell us, who they're targeting, it's 24 different groups, and this has been said publicly. We still don't have any details on who those groups are, much less who is in them. But also, we don't know the names of the individuals who are being killed. They're basically being killed because they are either part of these gangs or, quote, affiliated with those gangs. And really what that means, if they happen to wind up on a boat, and they're probably drug smugglers, don't get me wrong, but we don't know who they are or directly who they're affiliated with. And the thing to remember here, drugs are a major problem. But this is a huge escalation of presidential power. He is judge, jury, and executioner for, gosh, thousands, tens of thousands of people.
What would get you comfortable? I've covered you a long time. You're not saying you want drugs flooding into America.
Certainly not.
What would get you comfortable? Because what they're saying is we're taking out the problem.
Yeah, well, they're not taking out the problem. I mean, fentanyl is the main focus. And please understand, no fentanyl comes from Venezuela. That is 100% agreed upon. This is primarily cocaine traffickers, which is a huge problem, don't get me wrong, but it's not getting after the fentanyl, A. B, they have other ways to get cocaine into the country. We're targeting people only in neutral waters, I forget the term off the top of my head, but not sovereign territory of other nations. So they're going to adjust and start sending it in different places. So is this really going to have an effect? And meanwhile, we are violating the Constitution. There is supposed to be due process. Why does that matter? So that you can make sure that you're actually dealing with the right people, number one. And number two, this country has not agreed to have the death penalty for drug smuggling. We want to have that policy conversation. We can have that policy conversation. But the president has unilaterally decided that lethal force is going to be applied to any drug smuggler. That's an enormous expansion of power.
Let's take a left turn to what has now been going on for 30 days, which is the government shutdown. We now have the four largest airlines in the country coming out yesterday to say it is time to move on. It is time to pass a CR and then a clean CR and then negotiate on policies after that. That's on top of what came just earlier, which was the largest union of federal workers coming out to say exactly the same, which effectively is siding with the Republican position here. Are you going to take their lead on this? Are you going to listen to them?
Three big points on this that I want to make sure that people are aware of. First of all, we had a healthcare crisis. We have a healthcare crisis. The reason we were so insistent upon dealing with this is November 1st was the deadline.
Yeah.
Well, that's tomorrow. The Republicans have decided that they don't care about millions of people losing their health insurance and millions more seeing their health care costs go up. We were trying to force that conversation. Well, that crisis is now going to spill over us. Second, in this case, there's no such thing as a clean CR because Donald Trump has shown he doesn't pay any attention to appropriations laws.
But they were basically saying you got to reopen the government
Which would bring me to my third point. But I want to make sure people understand, all right? Well, just vote for a clean CR. A clean CR meant that Donald Trump could continue to unilaterally cut programs, and he was very clear about what he was basing that on. Partisan, going after his political enemies, using the Justice Department to go after his political enemies, voiding transportation programs, energy programs, specifically if they were benefiting Democrats. So that was a huge problem. But third, what the Republicans have done since the shutdown is they have tried to inflict a maximum amount of pain on the American people in the hopes of blaming Democrats. That's not what we want. We want to help people. We did this to deal with health care. So yes, as it becomes increasingly clear that the Republicans don't care, we have a decision to make. And that conversation is ongoing. How do we mitigate this pain? Lastly, if Trump wanted to.
What is your gut telling you need to do? You are not a stranger to calling out your party and saying when you need when you need to. What is your gut telling you guys need to do now?
Sure. I do want to emphasize on the SNAP benefits.
Yeah.
We have the money, billions of dollars set aside for emergencies like this. Trump is deciding not to pay SNAP benefits again for partisan advantage. My gut is telling what I'm already doing. I'm having conversations with leadership in the Senate, leadership in the House, saying how do we navigate out of this? Yeah. I agree with what we did. The issues were that important, but we have to face the reality of what's happening and what can we do about it if the Republicans are unwilling to do it. And we may well have to have that conversation. But understand, this was done because of the healthcare crisis the Republicans have dropped us in the middle of.
It seems the reality is shifting, though, and your candor on this is always appreciated. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.